On the fold-out chair this week, a rugby league success story on and off the field. It's not every day I get to wear the white jacket, the hairnet. We're here to meet Sean Garlick. Garlo's Pies.
Dummy from dummy, half and they're through again. Sean Garlick. Garlick gets a try.
First half of extra time, and here's a try. That's Garlo. Sean Garlick.
This is the best thing about the fold-out chair. We go behind the scenes. Sean Garlick, the Garlo's Pie Empire. It is amazing.
Been going here since 4 this morning. It's a little bit later now, but welcome. Before we go any further though, a beard net. You are sporting a little bit of a ginger growth there.
Yeah, sure.
Just
sure.
put this,
So
put this
that
on.
over there.
We don't want any of those hairs falling in the pie.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, what now, mate? There we go. Okay.
There we go. All right. Okay.
All right. Now, you're an amazing success story. We'll talk about the pies a little later, but I want to bring rugby league into the story first up. Where did rugby league start for you?
As a 5-year-old with Arncliffe Scots in the St George competition, only there for a couple of years before moving to the South Sydney comp, and with the La Perouse United Panthers, where I played all my junior football.
Were you a Souths fan as a kid?
Actually not. I was a Cronulla fan.
Right.
I loved Steve Rogers, was my favourite player growing up. But as I lived in the area more and more, Souths became in your blood.
Look, I remember through your first grade career that started in 1990, you were a hooker. You weren't a halfback turned hooker, you were a hooker, you only played hooker, nothing else. Was that all the way through your rugby league life?
Pretty much, yeah. I was too slow to be a back,
Right.
too small to be a real forward, so you had to go into the hooking role, you know, and dummy half, I loved it, you know. Was right in the thick of it, and the harder you work, the better you got.
Many players have done it. In fact, you know, Angus Crichton's done it this year, South Sydney to the Roosters, but that's like going to the dark side.
It was.
South Sydney, how did that come about?
Well, it wasn't. My father even, in fact, who was a lifelong Rabbitohs fan, grew up in Redfern, even said to me, son, do you mind? It takes me a while to get used to this. It didn't actually come to the first few games. It took him a while. And then even when he went to the first game at the football stadium, he came away and he said, do you know what? In there at the members of the football stadium, there wasn't one person I knew, not one, which shows you just what different fan base there was.
And yet at the Roosters, I mean, under Phil Goulder's coach, you were made captain. I mean, that's an enormous honour to captain a side.
Absolutely, especially when we had the Australian captain, Brad Fittler, who joined the club 2 years after I got there, and I retained the job, which was just phenomenal. You know, it was a great thrill to play in that very successful Roosters team, to be coached by Gus, who still was the best coach I ever had.
Okay, all right. No, okay, let me ask you about Gus, because there was a most unusual game you played as captain in 1995 at Brookvale Oval.
Yes.
Where theatrical Gus wanted you to come off the field. Referee David J, he was
Correct.
unhappy with something.
That's right.
Tell us that story.
He was desperately unhappy, and it was the case that Manly won about their first 10 games in a row. And Gus was saying 4 weeks out, we're going to be the first team that beats Manly. Sure enough, this day was a great battle at Brookvale, and I think we're in front by about 6 points with about 8 minutes to go. And Ronnie Palmer runs out and says, we could see Gus was going off on the sideline and doing all sorts of, he smashed the walkie-talkie. And he said, he wants you to bring the team off. I said, what are you talking about? He said, he'd protest, he wants you all off. I said, we're in front, Ronnie. Can't have, no way. We're going to win. Anyway, we held on and we won. And it was
16,000 grand at Brookvale. Gus is playing up with the crowd and you were told to come off.
That's right. Can you imagine that would have been long? But it was a great win, one of the best wins. And Gus just looked at the end of the game and we said, what was that all about? He just shook his head.
Of course. Then back to South Sydney to finish your career. In fact, you are at South Sydney in what could have been their last game ever. You're
Correct.
hooker in
That's right.
1999.
Absolutely. Thrown out of the competition.
Did you know the end was nigh then?
Oh, mate, it was a very emotional year. I remember Tugger was coach and he just lived on emotion and heart and soul, and we didn't quite know. We knew we were in the firing line. Didn't know whether the NRL were really going to pull the trigger. Sure enough, they did, and we were thrown out of the competition. And it was an amazing couple of years to fight to get back in. But what a great thrill it was for me to go back and finish my career at the Rabbitohs.
All right, all through the rugby league career, well, you tell me, was it all through? Because in your life story, also Sean Garlick, the policeman. In fact, I
Yes.
think you would have been a policeman when Gus was telling you to come off.
For sure. I was a policeman the whole time I played football. In fact, when Super League came in 95 and everyone had to retire their jobs, I actually cut back just to 1 day a week. So I worked part-time for the last 5 years of my football career, where I went to work as a policeman 1 day a week, which is that day, generally a Wednesday it was back then. You'd get off and I'd go and work in the cops for that 1 day. It's great.
Now, pre all of that, you know, there's Sean Garlick, the actor.
I did acting from the ages of probably 10 to 20.
Yeah.
And then once I started playing football, it was just too hard. Started to get a few knocks.
When was the last time you were actually in an acting role? I mean, you're acting now. You're acting as Sean Garlick on the Fan.
It all sort of finished, I think, Heartbreak High days. I did Fortress in 1985,
Right.
which at the time was Australia's biggest budget movie.
Yeah.
It was funded by home box office, and I had a starring role. I was away on location for 3 months in country Victoria.
Wow.
And Asher Keddy, a young Asher Keddy was in that. Rebecca Rigg, who was also married Simon Baker from The Mentalist, and Rachel Ward, of course. And that was a huge thrill to be away and actually make a movie full-time for 3 months.
All right, now, post-football. I am blown away by this. I mean, I remember I was working with you. You were doing a bit of commentary
Correct.
on the side. We were calling schoolboy football.
That's right.
And you opened up one shop, a Garlo's Pie shop.
Yes. At Maroubra.
At Maroubra.
At Maroubra, yes.
Just a little shop,
Yes.
little pie shop.
Yeah, it was my brother was a pastry cook.
Yep.
And my father was just retiring from the waterfront. He was a wharfie.
Yep.
I was a footballer copper, and so those skills came together and we opened our first shop. But at the time, not only had we never run a business before, we didn't even know anyone who would ever run a business. And so we just made it up as we went along, but got a real good kickstart. People might recall, we had our opening televised live on the footy show with the celebrity pie eating competition. The likes of Artie Beetson, Mark Carroll, Mark Geyer, Big Darryl Broman, and who was the other one? Spud Carroll.
Oh, I thought it might have been me. And then one night you had a store at Mascot and
Correct.
driving past. Was it Adam Sandler? Who drove?
We had a few stars go into in the store.
Like from Juice Bigelow.
Yeah,
What was
Juice
his-
Bigelow. What was his name
What
again?
was that actor's
fella?
name? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, Juice Bigelow,
The
yeah.
Van Hall.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What's his
Yeah, he
name?
called in.
He called
and
in?
actually took a whole lot of pies. And he was going on nighttime television that night. He flew to Melbourne with them and pulled them out and told everyone about these beautiful pies.
Amazing. So now, from one shop to this, a factory that employs so many people, producing how many pies and sausage rolls a day?
About 80,000 units a day we pump out. Yeah, and so it's grown all right. From when we first made our first pie shop, we made 100 pies the first day. It sold out by lunchtime. Then we made 200 the next day. Then we made 300 the next day. And that was as many as we could make by hand with the ice cream scoop. So now it's much more automated and
Sold
much easier.
internationally as well.
Correct. We actually opened a store in LA in 2014. It went for 2 years, but we just found it too tough to operate a store over the other side of the world. And so we now just export. So we export to places like UAE, Qatar, Hong Kong, South Pacific nations. We're just about to send to Japan for the first time. And it's great fun.
Well, Sean, as I said, an incredible life, incredibly successful life. The best still to come.
Thanks,
Sean
Vossy.
Garlick,
Thank you.
Garlo's Pies on the Fan. Yee-hee.